So, Dragon Ball Z. Last time I talked about these games was last year when we made that review of Rage Blast. I didn't really think about doing this all in one go, but since I wanted to review every single Dragon Ball game from PS2 up to PS4, I just thought that maybe I should make a marathon of this while I'm doing this. And just to be clear, I'm only going to look at the Dragon Ball games from the Budokai games all the way up to Fighters. I'm actually excited to do all of this, because some of these games I'm playing for the first time. We'll start with the Budokai Trilogy first, because to be honest, I don't have any interest to play any games before, because I don't really have anything interesting to say about Boost, Fury, or Dragon Ball GT Final Bout, and even if I did, it'll make this marathon longer than it already is with the games that I have to look at. Plus, the video will only be like 5 minutes long, even if I do both games, so, you know, I don't really do 5-minute reviews. It also means I'm not going to be looking at Infinite Worlds or Dragon Ball Sagas either. But know that not every game in this marathon is going to have their own separate video though. I'm also not going to review Dragon Ball Z Kakarot and Dragon Ball The Breakers because I just don't really feel like playing those games. I want to review Dragon Ball Z Kakarot because that's an RPG, so that's going to take a little bit longer. And Breakers just doesn't really seem like something that I will be into. And I know that's a pretty shallow reason, but hey, I got my own preferences. And I know that I'm going to be asked this. Since I already reviewed Rage Blast, I won't be included in this marathon, so if you want to know my thoughts about it, click on the card on top. But I already did a video on Rage Blast too. If I'm being honest here, it's actually still a pretty good video, barring the audio problems in the later half.
Now onto the customization. Customization is way too limited, at least compared to the last game. You only have 10 slots to put attacks in, and it's also limit points. The amount of points they gave you are way too low.
But I still want to review my thoughts on that video though. But with all that being said, let's get this Dragon Ball Z marathon started with the first series game, the Dragon Ball Z Budokai Trilogy. First up, we got the first Dragon Ball Z Budokai game, which is where a lot of Dragon Ball fans first got their start to playing DBZ games. Up until this game, Dragon Ball games weren't really like consistent with their quality because there were games like Ultimate Battle 22, which were actually pretty good. But then there's games like Dragon Ball Sagas, which I feel like I don't even have to explain this. But then when this game came out, this is when quality control started to play in more because most people have a lot of good memories with this game. Again, I never got to play this game until last year, so I wouldn't have the fondness for this game that some people do, but I can see why. The game had really good graphics, and honestly, it still holds up to this day. At least when it comes to animations. The art style of this game just kind of looks too chunky for my taste, but I don't know. This game came out pretty early in the PS2's life, and it's all on the same level as Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, or maybe even the original Sly Cooper. But I feel like Dragon Ball's art style translates pretty well in this game. I even love how they recreated the original Dragon Ball intro 1-to-1. You can play through the entire story of Dragon Ball with some pretty good animated cutscenes, and every important character from the Saiyan Saga all the way up to the Android Saga is here and playable. Nobody from the Buu Saga is here, which I remember hearing that was because when this game first came out, Dragon Ball Z didn't finish airing in North America, so I guess they didn't want to add the Buu characters until the arc was finished. So there's no Super Saiyan 3 characters, no Majin Vegeta, none of the Buu forms, no Devora, and no Fusion characters like Gotenks and Vegito. But for some reason in the UK box art, characters from the Buu arc are shown, and so they kind of clickbaited people into thinking that they'd be playing as Buu Saga characters. There's actually a couple of differences between the US and the Power Region versions of this game. To start off, the game's intro just shows clips from the story mode and not the Rock the Dragon intro from the US version, which to be honest, isn't really that big of a deal, but for some reason, you can only play this game with the Japanese voices only. There's not even an option to change it into the English voices if you don't like the Japanese voices. I mean, it's a good thing that the subtitles are in English, because then you would have no idea what the fuck is going on if you never watched an episode of Dragon Ball in your life. I don't understand regional differences. The game also has a decent soundtrack, but unfortunately, it would change in the HD collection. I'm sure most Budokai fans already know this, but the man who composed the original Budokai Trilogy's soundtrack, Kenji Yamamoto, got into trouble for plagiarism, and this won't be the last time something like this happens. But I'll go into that in the Rage Blast 2 video. He plagiarized from artists like Black Sabbath, Earth, Wind & Fire, Stratovarius. I'm pretty sure he even stole a song from a Spider-Man game on the N64 of all things. So when the Dragon Ball Z Budokai HD collection was released in 2012, it replaced all the original songs with songs from Rage Blast, and hey, I'm not complaining, I love Rage Blast soundtrack, but if you're someone who loves the original Budokai songs, then you might want to avoid the HD collection then. In case you guys are wondering, I'm playing these games off of PC Access 2 off my laptop, and I'm going to do the same thing with Tenkaichi games when I get to them. I mean, like, I do have a copy of Budokai 1 on PS2, and I wasn't going to play this game via that way, but then I just decided, you know, I might as well just emulate just with Budokai 2 and 3, just for consistency for this video. So let's get into the gameplay now. So first of all, this might be the first actually great Dragon Ball game, but it's still an early fighting game on PS2 during a time when Dragon Ball couldn't really get 2D fighting mechanics down. To start off, it feels weird playing this game after pouring so many hours into Fighter, since that game has a lot more complex and developed fighting mechanics than this game. Shit, even the sequel are more mechanically different than this. This game has a pretty basic control setup. Squares to punch, triangles to kick, circles to throw energy blast, and X's to block. You can do combo chains to activate character special moves like Goku's Kamehameha and Vegeta's Gallic Gun. There's also a lot of melee combos that you can do, but it's so awkward to pull off though. For a lot of them, you need to do a bunch of kicks and punches and then press the energy buttons, but it feels pretty random if it works or not. Sometimes I end up doing a character special move by complete accident. Eventually, I would end up doing the same combos for special moves, and to give credit where credit's due, it works, but it gets kind of tiring doing the same tricks over and over again. Well, you can do spike attacks like throwing an enemy in the air, or spiking them into environmental hazards, and this is before Tenkaichi introduced destructible stages. The combat in this game is pretty stiff in comparison to the sequels though, but it works for this game. I can't help but feel like most matches in this game just feel like one person does a combo, falls down, gets back up, and the other person does a combo, and then repeat. So that's pretty annoying that whenever we're fighting against smaller characters like Krillin or Kid Gohan, they're really hard to hit if you're playing against big characters like Nappa or Cell, so most of the time you're just running a fade with the air. While your opponent's down, you can charge up your ki, which lets you do more energy-based attacks, or transform into different forms, which every character in this game can do. Even characters that don't go Super Saiyan don't have any kind of transformations like Piccolo and Kid Gohan. They can just tap into their hidden potential or fuse state. But if your opponent knocks you on the floor while your energy meter runs out, it'll cancel all your transformation. Even characters that have permanent transformations like Frieza and Cell. That's weird. Budokai's content isn't a lot, but it's there. You got versus, story, and tournament. Versus mode is pretty self-explanatory. You and or a friend fight each other for a couple of matches. Tournament mode is where you fight a bunch of people and earn money afterwards. You can purchase skill capsules that you can equip to other characters to make combat a little more free-flowing. But that also means that you have to grind tournament mode a lot to make combos more fun. This is also how you unlock the only Blue Saga exclusive character in the game, the Great Saiyaman. Okay. You gotta complete tournament mode on the hardest difficulty with every character, and after only like 11 or 12 attempts, I want to say, after doing this, I was like, yeah, this is fucking impossible. Plus I got 2 other games I gotta look at after this, so yeah. Story is the best part of this game for me. It adapts all the story arcs from Dragon Ball from the first encounter with Raditz all the way up to the final Kamehameha with Cell. Budokai 1 story mode makes you feel like you're watching an episode of the show, which is something that no other Dragon Ball game to this day does, except maybe Kakarot. It also does a good job in just getting you into the action and cutting all the filler from the show. This is also where the game's animation shine the most because the cutscenes in this game are really great to watch. They're animated in really good detail, and the mouth movements really go along with the English dialogue. And you'll love how the main menu changes depending on where you are in the story mode. The only problem I have with the cutscenes in this game is that even though they cut down on all the fillers so the story's more streamlined, I feel like that made some of the pacing in some of the scenes a little bit too fast. For example, the scene where Gohan goes Super Saiyan 2, remember how atmospheric and dramatic it was? Well here, everything just kinda happens at once. I mean, I get that maybe it's asking too much for the same kind of atmosphere like in the show, but I just can't help but notice how it's slapped together all it feels. And there's also how whenever a cutscene ends, the game always told you that you unlock a new move or a new character, and it's not too bad, but sometimes it gives off a severe tonal whiplash. Because someone can just straight up die in a cutscene and it's immediately interrupted by, hey look, you got a new move, here's one combination how you use it, dipshit. And it happens after every single cutscene too. As for the story mode itself, you just fight people and move on. There's also a couple of mini games so the story mode doesn't get too repetitive, like reflecting key blasts and chaining combos. But while on the topic of minigames, fuck this special Queen Cannon with minigame with Piccolo. You gotta keep Raditz in the middle before the counter runs out, but it's so hard to do because I either go too far left or too far right, or sometimes he just doesn't move at all. This took me way longer than it should have. This one can eat a dick too. It's so goddamn precise on how you clash with your opponents. It's damn near frame perfect. For most of the story, you fight as Goku and sometimes Gohan, but once you finish the story, you can go back and play as the other characters, but that's only if you're not tired of getting your ass handed to, because Dragon Ball Z Budokai has some of the most advanced AI of the 2000s because I was getting my ass beat through the entire story mode. Okay, it's so easy to get into, but this game has some of the most steepest difficulty curves ever experienced in a video game, and it only gets worse from here on out, but we'll get there when we get there. I especially hate it whenever I almost beat my opponent, but then I lose a match because of a cheap shot, and so now I gotta do it all over again. And whenever that happens, I just feel like... There's also what-if scenarios, like what if Vegeta won the battle against Goku? He becomes a Super Saiyan because of his dead partner. But I gotta say, Super Saiyan Vegeta looks pretty good in his original Saiyan armor. Then there's what if Cell accidentally absorbed Krillin instead of 18, which is actually pretty funny. The worst one has to be if Frieza won the fight against Goku, because all that happens is that he loses a tooth and gets his immortality and decides that he's gonna blow up Earth, which he was already planning to do that anyway, so... I don't know, I feel like I'm missing something here. So yeah, the combat in this game is pretty stiff, and the story mode is kind of bullshit, but I feel like Dragon Ball Z Budokai is a pretty good start to the series. The fighting is great to look at, and the sound direction and the voice acting is pretty spot on from the source material, but there are some times where people can just be overacting. Most people who play Budokai always bring up the... But other than that, everyone does a good job here. I feel like the only people that can really get fun out of this game if they're already a Dragon Ball fan in the first place, because the combat can get pretty repetitive, and there's a lot of grinding if you want to get the most out of this game. There are way better fighting games and even better Dragon Ball Z games out there, but this game needed this to set the foundation for the next games to come, and no less than a year later, we got Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2. So when first looking at Budokai 2, the first thing you notice is the better graphics. This game uses a more cel-shaded art style to make the characters stand out more. They did try to give the original Budokai cel-shaded graphics in the GameCube port, but they don't really look as detailed as they do in Budokai 2 and 3. But I still think the graphics in Budokai 2 hold up pretty well. The character models look really good and accurate to the characters in the show. The animations are top notch, and the stages are pretty faithful to the show too. The soundtrack borrows some of the songs from the first game, but its original songs are really good. My favorites are the opening theme and that one jazz theme that plays over in the Dragon World. Like, I just want to dance my ass off every time I hear it. I'll start with the graphical and musicality first because this game doesn't really do that much different from the first game. Like, there's like different modes and everything, but the core fighting mechanics really stay the same from the first Budokai game to the second, with like really minor tweaks and everything. And same thing kind of applies for Budokai 3 too. So to start with all the minor tweaks, the combat is a lot faster now. Pulling off super attacks doesn't really feel as awkward and as random to pull off as it was in the first game. It feels like whenever I couldn't pull off a super move, it felt like it was my fault, not because of its randomness. Aerial combat is a lot more refined than it was before too. The transition between ground to air combat is much more seamless. You do combo chains, special moves, and air dodge all in midair too, just making it a lot more fluid and free flowing than the first game. You can now perform special moves on the fly without doing any button combinations first. Rush attacks have more visual flair than before, having more animated cutscenes than the first, and in some cases the opposing player can defend themselves by either rotating the analog stick faster than the offense, or pushing the same button as your opponent. Some attacks won't do enough damage if you don't spin an analog stick fast enough. The character roster now expands into Majin Buu Saga, so now you can play as all 3 versions of Deborah, Hercule's daughter Videl, and Supreme Kai. You can also play as the transformation that the Buu art introduces, like Super Saiyan 3, Majin Vegeta, and even fusion characters like Gotenks and Vegito. But you still gotta equip the capsule to perform them. Yeah, capsules are back in this game, and you can equip them to specific characters too. There's also some pretty cool fusions that you can do, like a Potara fusion between Goku and Hercule named Goku, and a fusion dance between Tien and Yamcha called Tiancha, but it's still ranked below literally any other Saiyan in the series, and Piccolo. Probably Krillin too. You can also absorb people with Super Buu with the absorption capsule. There's also some what-up absorptions like Frieza and Cell, but he looks like he has terminal cancer when he absorbs Cell. That's really all the minor thing that's been tweaked in this game, but again, they're pretty minor. Honestly, choosing between this game and Budokai 1 is just, do you want a cool story mode or more characters? Even Terminal is the same from the last game, but I'm pretty sure I can say the same thing for literally any other fighting game that's ever been made. Ring outs are still the best way to get matches done and over with, so yeah. Budokai 2's new big mode is Dragon World. It's kind of something like a board game, and you and an ally move across the board fighting other people. It's basically this game's story mode, but with none of the cool cutscenes from the first game. The story also goes up to the Buu Saga now, which is pretty cool though. You're not only fighting other people in this mode, you can use the Dragon Radar to collect Dragon Balls, heal your characters when they're low on health, upgrade your defense and offense, and get more capsules to unlock characters, skills, and more stages to get skill. Am I playing Budokai or Super Mario Sunshine? Anyway, Dragon Ball is pretty cool for the first couple of rounds, but it is boring and repetitive fast, because you have to fight a bunch of Soul Juniors and Cybermen before you fight the main characters in the saga. That, and later in the campaign, you'll have to fight Cell and Frieza multiple times too, but it still doesn't stop them from getting to me at least once. The story mode could have been at least 2 hours shorter without the Cybermen bullshit. Budokai 2's story mode also seems to have the same difficulty curve that Budokai 1 story mode had. Honestly, it might be even worse here, just because of one fight. This fucking fight with Kid Buu. I spent at least 1 hour trying to beat this pig bubblegum cocksucker, and I lost 2 characters before I could finally beat him. This one battle alone caused me more frustration and anger than anything in Budokai 1. Yeah, even the Cell fight. Like, the AI in this fight is so broken. Like, it's like no matter how many times it looks like I can catch him off guard, this motherfucker is always blocking my moves, and I swear the battle was rigged for the AI to win because it feels like they can always block my attacks, but I can never block their attacks or I don't have enough time to dodge. Not only that, but the melee attacks is so crazy, and the AI is always spamming that goddamn vanishing ball. This is also where I found out how janky the hitboxes and invincibilities in this game can be, because what happened there? I hit the dude and I still got hit. Like, what's going on? I swear at this point, I was so close to just stabbing my controller and having just calling it a fucking day. Really, when I looked at people beating Kid Buu on their first time, most of them used Goten of all people, and they were doing better than I was. And once you beat Dragon Ball and collect all the Dragon Balls, you can unlock Dobby Spaceship, which is a mini gauntlet that you can use to unlock other characters and skills. This consists of beating as many components as you can, surviving for a good amount of time, or deflecting Ki Blast. It's a decent distraction, but nothing amazing. I know it feels like I didn't really go into a lot of depth about everything in this game, but that's honestly because Budokai 2, like I said, doesn't really do a lot of stuff that's much different from this game than the original Budokai. And the new stuff that they added are pretty minor, and even all the new game modes that are in this game are either just tedious or just good, but not amazing. This game just kind of feels like more like a DLC expansion than a direct sequel to the first game, since everything in this game is just minor tweaks from the first game. And I feel like because of that, Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2 is considered the black sheep of the Budokai Trilogy, and it's just straight up not even including the HD collection. And look, I can understand why some people only like Budokai 2 because of the Dragon mode is kind of a downgrade from the story mode from the first game, and the fighting, while more expanded on, still ends up being happy slaps, but that's not really a reason to omit it from the HD collection because it's still part of the series whether people like it or not. I mean, people hate Devil May Cry 2, and that's still part of the PS3 HD collection, but it seems like the only way to play this game is on PS2 or emulation. Like I said, the game made improvements where improvements were needed, but really, everything that Budokai 2 does good is done even better in the next game, Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3. So graphically, Budokai 3 looks a lot like Budokai 2, and you would be right, but the main difference between these two games is the presentation. The shell-shaded graphics really pop out in this game. Ultimate finishers that you have even more style than ever before. Honestly, I wouldn't go as far as saying they're all on the same level with Duration Blast and maybe in Fighters 2. I swear, it looks like I'm watching combo finishes from Street Fighter or Tekken sometimes. The models have a lot more detail, and the transformations look really good even though Goku kind of looks like he's been sunburnt when he's in its Kaioken state. I know it's how it looks like in the show, but it just looks weird to me. Auras look really good though. Beam and energy waves look a lot closer to the show, and the Kamehameha isn't yellow anymore. Okay, that was already fixed in Budokai 2, but it just looks better here. The stage environment got a graphical update too. Not only that, but the cutscenes when you push characters in the stage hazards look better, and they even have callbacks to the show too. Not only that, but some ultimate attack can destroy the entire stage you're playing on, making it look like a desolate wasteland, and that's fucking cool. This is also the first game that has a mini-game during the loading screens, and they're honestly pretty addicting. I really miss these in the modern Dragon Ball games. There's also little details like how your health bars shaped like scouters. They break when you die, and they're completely destroyed when you hit an ultimate attack. Also, I think this is the only Dragon Ball game that has Boo's body as a stage. I also really love the soundtrack. I really get a kick out of the opening theme, even though some parts of it kind of reminds me of Battle of Omega from Retrospective Blast 2. Anyway, Budokai 3 is basically just Budokai 2, but better. This whole thing that Budokai 2 improves from 1 and just does more things, like more defensive options. If you have enough ki while someone is doing a combo on you, you have a chance to teleport out of the combo to change up the match in your favor, or you can dodge attacks at point blank range if you're good enough, which clearly I'm not. Matter of fact, all the times I would dodge all of my opponent's attacks were by complete accident. I think you have to hold the guard button and then press the D-pad in any direction that you want. But try not to spam teleport dodges because it takes up keys, so while it's really helpful, it can really screw you over if you're too reckless. But I like that though. It's a good risk-reward system. You can even teleport after a blast combo to keep the flow of the combat going. If you build up enough ki, you can enter Dragon Rush mode where basic melee attacks don't hurt you. You're harder to knock down and you do more damage, and you can pull off a character's ultimate attack while you're in the state. And this is where the game's graphics shine the most. Like for a PS2 game from 2004, they make it work with what they have here. The camera angles are so dynamic, they're animated in a lot of detail, aren't even pretty faithful to the show, and the effects are colorful and vibrant, and the attacks are flashy and pack more visual flair than ever. Although just like the last game, you have to charge up your energy to do a lot of damage, but unlike the last game where you have to rotate the analog stick faster than your opponent, you have to time your button presses to charge your blast meter, and it's really precise, and it really sucks whenever you miss a button press. But let me tell you, whenever you get your entire meter filled up, there's no better feeling than watching your attack at the opposing player, watching them struggle to push it back, and then exploding and destroying the planet, unless the other player manages to push it back. But even if you're not able to activate your ultimate attack, you can pull off Dragon Rush mode, which is a 3-part minigame where you can press a button to keep the rush going, but if you press the same button as your opponent, it cancels out the Dragon Rush and your Dragon Rush mode. Dragon Rush isn't permanent though, so when your meter runs out, you're left vulnerable, so when you notice your meter is running low, try to back away from your opponent so they don't get you in a combo. So yeah, I fucking love these new mechanics. So not only do matches don't become completely one-sided, but change up the game state flaws just enough so fights just don't turn into who can mash the buttons the fastest. It's not really just beating your opponents that's the goal, but the strategy you use to beat your opponent. This also hopes that the character roster now expands into movie characters like the Gargantuan Broly, Frieza's brother Cooler, and even Bardock, which you can actually unlock if you have a Budokai 2 save file on your memory card. Fusion characters come back like Gotenks, Vegito, and with the power of the fusion dance with Goku and Vegeta, Gogeta is finally playable, which means that Gogeta fans can finally rejoice that their favorite fusion is finally playable. GT characters in this game too. two of them, Ruben and Mega Shenron, and along with Super Saiyan 4 Goku, Vegeta, and Gogeta, who not only have the best ultimate in the entire game, but is also the most overpowered character in the game because of how many of his attacks do so much damage. You unlock all these characters from playing through Dragon Arena and Dragon Universe. Dragon Universe is a free-roaming space where you explore the world of Dragon Ball Z. This is also this game's way of telling the story of Dragon Ball Z, but instead it's told through dialogue box like the last game, and that really bums me out because Budokai 3 is a really great looking game for its time, and it would have been really cool to see this game tell the story of Dragon Ball Z with cutscenes like Budokai 1, but I guess it's not too bad because between the 3 games, I think Budokai 3 has the best story mode. Yeah, the way it tells the story isn't on the same level as Budokai 1, I consider it a downgrade in that sense, but I feel like the core gameplay makes up for that. There's some RPG elements here. When you play the main villains of the saga, you can level the characters that you're playing to increase your health, ki, defense, strength, and other stats. I like this part of Dragon Universe, but the only problem I have with it is that you can't save the experience points you get after a fight. You have to spend all in the stats. While you're in the overworld, you can do things like collect money, capsules, and locate the Dragon Ball system Shenron. The main selling point of Dragon Universe is how big it is, and usually that would be a bad thing, but since you get blasted with sonic speed all over the map, traveling through here isn't really that long and tedious, and combined with the fact that no Soul Juniors haven't been bullshit to deal with like in the last game, I can have fun with this mode. There's no part of Dragon Universe where I was bored or just decided to call it a day. I even went on my way to play through the Dragon Universe with all the characters and play with Goku and Vegeta multiple times with a lot of different characters and forms. This is actually pretty fun. Then there's Dragon Arena, which is honestly a really weird mode because you fight a bunch of people in this mode with various different power levels. This mode is really to get all the really rare castles, like breakthrough castles for characters to get every single move they have. This is also where the password system comes in. When you're playing through the Dragon Universe, you get these passwords, and at first I thought they were just unlock cheat codes, but they're actually for sharing with other people so they can play your custom character. This sounds cool, but since Dragon Universe already does enough for unlocking castles, Dragon Arena just doesn't really feel like it was needed. I guess the developers didn't want the players getting bored of playing Dragon Universe in the tournament mode over and over, but they're already fun from the start, so I don't really think there was a reason for that then. Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3 is often remembered as one of the best Dragon Ball games, and honestly, I can get why. I spent close to 15 to 20 hours playing this game just for this video. For the first 2 games, I just recorded the story mode for a first playthrough, a couple of matches for dueling, and the tournament mode, but once, and I just called it a day there, but here, I almost unlocked all the characters and transformations. I unlocked a lot of castles. I even beat Dragon Universe multiple times too. I even got my friends to play this game too, and one of them never even watched an episode of Dragon Ball in his life, and he had a lot of fun. Just goes to show, this game makes so many great changes to the formula that it not only makes a good Dragon Ball game, but just a great fighting game in general. And let me tell you something, as someone who could never really get into the original Budokai series, the fact that I almost got everything in this game, I feel like this game is definitely something for someone who's in a fighting game to at least try out at least once, and in certain stats it's one of the best Dragon Ball games of all time. I wouldn't say that it's better than Street Fighter 5 or Tekken 7, honestly I would say Fighter is a better game, but the Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3 is still a fun time no matter what. But if you look at the entire Budokai trilogy as a whole, let's summarize. I like Budokai 1 story mode, well half of it anyway, but the combat isn't very complex. Budokai 2 makes improvements, but it's just more of the same from the first game, and Dragon Ball is fun for the first time, but it just gets tedious after an hour. And Budokai 3 takes what was great about the first 2 games, takes out the shit that didn't work, and makes a great fighting game out of it. So if you look at the whole trilogy altogether, I really got full enjoyment out of one of the 3 games. Does that make the entire series bad? No, it's just more like Budokai 3 is just so good that the first 2 games just aren't that good in comparison. And that's not me saying that they're bad, I just feel like Budokai 1 and Budokai 2 to an extent just kind of go through a little bit of first game syndrome, where the blueprints are there to make a fun game, but the sequels just do it better. But as it stands, the Budokai trilogy are all good games, and if you're a hardcore Dragon Ball fan, give these games a try. Get on the HD collection on PS3 and Xbox 360, it really makes the graphics pop out. Well, there's one series of games done and over with. If you want to talk about games, the PS2 games that nobody ever shuts the fuck about, next up we're going to be looking at the Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi series next. These games are not only referred to as the best Dragon Ball games of all time, but the best fighting games of all time in general. But that's for next time, so until all that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.